Hello, my name is Serena and welcome back to the Book to Movie Club. It's been a week. I'm trying to be consistent. Anyway, I'm back with another book to movie comparison. If you haven't seen, I believe my last video was my predictions or my ranking of the best Oscar nominated adapted screenplay nominations. I can't speak. And my prediction was correct, which I could not be happier for Cord Jefferson, and they should have won more awards for that film. But anyway, go watch that video if you haven't already and let me know your thoughts about American Fiction and the other nominees in the comments of that video. But today we are talking about Apples Never Fall. Now this is an author. Apples Never Fall was written by Liane Moriarty, and I was already interested in reading one of her books after reading The Expatriates, because that book made me realize how much I do like contemporary fiction, and I feel like Liane is becoming the queen of contemporary fiction. That's just me. No one else is saying that, just me. But she has quite a few books, and this is just the first of many that I plan on reading. Liane Moriarty is an Australian author, and she has published 9 novels. She has some children's books as well. Apples Never Fall is her most recent novel, which was published in 2021. And this is her 3rd book to be adapted into a series. She also wrote Big Little Lies and 9 Perfect Strangers, which was recently, I think in the past few years, made into a show starring, both of those were starring Nicole Kidman. She also has 2 more series in the works. Her book, The Husband's Secret, is in pre-production, and I think it's supposed to be starring Blake Lively, which, interesting choice. No shade. And then another one of her books, The Last Anniversary, is in production and will also be starring Nicole Kidman, of course. So, I mean, she is like the most famous Australian. Is that true? I'm gonna say it's true. She's the most famous Australian in my eyes. So it makes sense that this Australian author and her are working together to produce and create these entertaining television series. So at least 9 Perfect Strangers and Big Little Lies seem to be entertaining. So hopefully the follow-ups are also entertaining. Hopefully this series, Apples Never Fall, is entertaining. I actually haven't watched it yet. So before we talk about that, let's get into the book. So as I mentioned, Apples Never Fall was released in 2021, and it is contemporary fiction. And I'm looking at my notes, and I said one of my first thoughts were, I appreciate this book because it jumps right in. From the first chapter, we know that someone is missing, and the siblings that are the children of the woman who is missing are trying to find her. And I love a plot that just jumps right in. Don't keep me waiting. Let's just get into it. So I loved that. A little bit more about the story. So this book is about the Delaney family. One day, Joy Delaney, the mother of the family, goes missing. She sends this random text saying she's going off grid and some jibber jabber at the end of it. And since her kids can't reach her, they're getting very worried. But when they go to their dad to share their concerns, he has a cut on his face and does not seem to be concerned at all. Eventually, one of the siblings files a police report saying that her children are missing, and the detectives begin to investigate, and shenanigans ensue, of course. The moment I started reading this book, I thought it was a bit silly. Like the first chapter, the kids around the table having this conversation, I'm like, you guys are being weird. And when I saw the cast for the show, I was like, ooh, maybe that goofiness will come off on screen a little bit. But yeah, things did not go as planned. And I'm learning, as I thought. And I'm learning more and more in contemporary fiction that that's how it's going to go. Sometimes it will be more serious, but serious in a way that still not a lot happens. You can go watch my video about The Expatriates to get an example of that. Or like in Apples Never Fall, where it's really not that serious. You think it's going to be serious, and then it ends up not being that serious at all. Before I give any spoilers, this is the spoiler alert. So if you don't want to know anything more about the book or the show, stop watching now. Thanks for watching. Give this a like before you go. Come back when you have finished watching or reading. Let's dive a little deeper, shall we? So before Joy, the mother, went missing, this random girl shows up at her house. Her name is Savannah, and she says that she has been abused by her boyfriend. She has a cut on her face, she's bleeding, doesn't have anywhere else to go. And so the Delaney parents let her in, and she just moves in and starts being a part of their little family. She's cooking, she's cleaning, she's making Joy feel loved again, I'll say. I think Joy's kids were a bit distant, and the family has its issues, as any family does. So to have someone else in the house who was like sharing some of the responsibilities, unlike her husband, made her feel a bit seen and free. But of course Savannah didn't just show up because she didn't have anywhere else to go. We find out that Savannah has a bone to pick with this family, which I think was extremely misdirected. So the Delaney family used to own a tennis school, and from that school they had one student go pro. I think his name was Harry. It turns out that Savannah was Harry's sister, but their parents were divorced. So she went to live with the mom. Harry grew up with the dad and became this rich professional tennis player, while Savannah was being forced into being a ballerina but hated it and was being starved by her mom. So one day when visiting her brother and dad, she goes to the Delaney's home and is like taking food because she's being starved, and all of them yell at her. They're like, "Why are you in our kitchen? Get out of here. What are you doing? No, I'm not gonna make you a sandwich. Give me back my banana." I swear that's what happened. And ever since then, she has been wanting to seek revenge. She's been wanting to get revenge on this family. She blames them for her parents' divorce in some way. She blames them on her dad and brother having to move further away so that he can get a different coach. And it turns out that her brother has to get a new coach because Joy sent him away. Joy wanted her husband Stan to focus on their children, their budding tennis careers, and knowing that Harry was going to go the distance with it, she was like, that's going to be a distraction. He's going to take my husband away from our family, and so Harry needs to go. Savannah spills the tea. Stan had no idea that Joy sent away Harry and his dad to go be coached somewhere else. And it causes a rift in the family when Susanna does this. She also brings up some other people's secrets that they weren't ready to tell, ruin some other people's lives or makes them feel bad, or what else does she do? Takes their money, you know, the things that scammers do. But when she tells Joy's secret to Stan, it causes a rift in their relationship, and Joy decides that she does need to go off grid for a while. So Savannah convinces her to go to this camp, I don't know, to get some time away, to think about her marriage, to decide if she wants to be married to Stan. And she does send a text telling her family, her children this, but she can't really text very well, so it isn't very clearly communicated. She also left a note for her husband, but their dog eats paper, apparently. Can I tell you how ridiculous this book is? The way it unfolds is just outrageous. So the police are about to show up to arrest Stan for murdering Joy because they find a bloody t-shirt in his backyard that was dug up by the cat, the neighbor's cat. And the police are like, this is obviously evidence. So they're going to arrest Stan for the murder of his wife when she shows up. She's like, what do you mean arrest him? I'm right here. I left a note. But the note was put on the fridge with a broken magnet, and they all know it was broken. This is like a story that they tell. They bought this magnet at Wimbledon or in London, whatever, and it never worked. And that's the magnet that she chose to use to hang this note on the refrigerator. But of course, because it doesn't work, it dropped to the floor, and the dog that eats paper ate the note. So isn't that the the goofiest conclusion you've ever heard. There is more to the story. There is a little bit of a twist at the end that I'm actually not going to spoil. Maybe I will. We'll talk about it when I finish watching the show because I haven't finished watching it yet. I'm on episode 2 or episode 3. But yeah, when I finished reading this book, I was like, this is the goofiest thing I've ever seen. But I was really excited for the series still. Like, it's such a silly book. It is a bit suspenseful, but the meat and the potatoes of it, however the saying goes, is not the most satisfying. It's just really silly. And I think it's supposed to be. So I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. I think I did give it a 4 out of 5. I enjoyed the characters, I enjoyed the plot, and I enjoyed the writing. I have my little book club journal that I'm referencing, and I said the whole thing is silly, but Savannah is crazy. Great twist at the end. And so I do recommend this. It's not the darkest mystery. It's not going to have you, on the edge of your seat, but it was entertaining nonetheless. I also said Savannah's anger feels misdirected because the person she has an issue with is her mother and her father, and she needs to go deal with that. Why she chose to show up at the Delaney's house in the middle of the night to get revenge on them because they wouldn't feed her the one time that she was at their house 20 years ago doesn't make any sense to me. And if it was also, it's almost felt like she was testing them. Like, if they're good people now, then maybe I won't be a terrible person. And I believe Joy and Stan proved themselves to be good people. The children didn't because they were extremely suspicious, as they should have been. But she still did them all very dirty. So, like, they let you live with them for months, it seemed. Maybe 1 month. Weeks, at least. And she was still like, I hate you all. You're all going to be punished. Very strange. Yeah, the book was ridiculous, but I do recommend it. And so now I'm going to go finish watching the show. And I will check back with you to discuss my final thoughts when I'm done. See you then. So I finally finished watching Apples Never Fall. I have opinions. Before I share my opinions, let's talk a little bit about the production and the cast and all of the things. So the series was created by Melody Marnick, who also did the OA. If you've never seen the OA, people were clowning one scene in particular from season 2. From season 1 on Twitter a few weeks ago, and I think it's hilarious because it is hilarious, and out of context it's absolutely ridiculous, and even in context it's ridiculous. Anyway, if you haven't seen the OA, it unfortunately only had 2 seasons, which was a shame, but it's a great show. She also created Murder at the End of the World, which I have yet to watch and need to watch, and The Big C, along with some other things. A little bit about the cast. So when I first saw who was going to be in this show, I was like, fantastic. It's going to be just as funny as the book. It's going to be perfection. For 2 reasons specifically. I saw that Alison Brie was playing one of the daughters, and, she's well known from Community, as well as this one rom-com, someone I used to know. I can't remember the name of it, but it's cute, and I think it's on Amazon Prime, so go watch it. Anyway, she's a comedic actor, and Jake Lacey from The White Lotus, comedic actor. Saw the 2 of them, and I was like, fantastic. We're gonna have a good show on our hands. The rest of the cast, Stan and Joy, the parents, are played by Sam Neill and Annette Bening, and then the 2 other siblings are played by Essie Randalls and Connor Turner, who are both Australian, so shout out to them for being a part of this Australian book brought to television. Obviously they're playing Americans, but whatever. And one of the other main characters is Savannah, who is played by Georgia Flood. So yeah, as I said, in the book, they are in Australia, but in the show, it takes place in Miami. There is one comment. A detective is talking to Stan, the dad, about making an international call to find out more about his family's past. Unless I missed it, they never say where he's from, but you can, the actor is from New Zealand, is a Kiwi, is that what they're called? Anyway. And you can kind of hear his accent, especially there's a scene where he's whispering, and I'm like, that's definitely some New Zealand coming out there. And so I guess he is supposed to be from New Zealand? No idea. They never really talk about it ever again. So that was an interesting choice. I also must say, every scene that Annette Bening is in is my favorite part of this show. I think she has the most dramatic scenes, and they're fantastic. She does a fantastic job. And the rest of it, I thought was a little boring. I did not like this show. Mind you, it's only 7 episodes. And I wasn't a fan. But I want to read you something. The creator, what's her name? Melanie, did an interview with Variety. And they were asking her about how she felt about the differences between the show and the book. And she was saying that Liane Moriarty, the author, gave them free reign. She was like, do what you want. I'm here if you need me, but go do your thing. So there are some very different choices made. Definitely some changes made from the book to the show. None that I think are very pressing to talk about. They're fine. No choice, I have a bone to pick with some when some choices are made. But none of these made me sit and think why in the world did they do that, except for the funniness being taken out of the show. So as I was saying, the interviewer was asking about the changes that they made. And Melanie says, the other thing that's tricky is the book has such incredible wit. It's so funny, but trying to make sure that the show is funny, yet not in a way that ever undercuts the seriousness of what is happening to Joy. So yeah, it was tricky trying to make the show as funny as the book without taking away from the seriousness. And I don't think they did a very good job of that at all. There was one scene when I laughed out loud. I can't even remember what happened, but there was one scene that did make me laugh. And nothing else was funny. And I think that was a shame, because that is the only reason I liked this book. I think if you keep the silliness around Joy, the mom, going missing, and the context around it, but don't make any other part of it funny, then it just is boring. And that's how I felt about this show. I felt the show was really boring. There is a little bit of a twist at the end. So as we know, Joy goes missing, and in the book she texts her family and is like, I'm going off grid, I'm going to something, but the text isn't clear, so they don't know, and they just think she's been murdered. In the show, there is no text. She goes off grid and goes to Savannah, who is a girl who just showed up. I think I explained it earlier, I hope. This girl who just showed up and kind of disrupted the family. And Savannah kind of kidnaps her. She brings her back to her house, tells her the phone isn't working, but she'll call someone. There's no signal. Joy doesn't have a cell phone. And when Joy finds out that Savannah is not this girl's real name and she has a gun, she's like, all right, I need to go back home. There's been a hurricane. I need to get out of here. And Savannah crashes the car and runs away. Fortunately, Joy survives, but Savannah goes missing. Joy returns to the family. The husband was arrested. Stan went to jail for a night or two, and then comes home. In the book, Joy does go off grid, and she goes to this retreat and takes care of herself and decides if she wants to stay in this marriage. And then she comes home, and all the silliness of how the miscommunication happens comes to light. But that's not part of the show. There is no miscommunication. Joy did just leave because she wanted to. And they're all like, yo, we thought you were dead, and that is not okay, and you need to apologize. And I was just like, let's take a breath here. Let's take a beat. I'm curious, for people who didn't read the book and watch the show, was it as boring as I felt it was, or was it more suspenseful because you didn't know what was happening? Also, in the book, the way that the book ends is Joy and Savannah have this one last interaction. They go to this off-grid camp together, and then Joy returns home. While we go to the past, we go back maybe a year. I don't even know, actually. Savannah, before going to the Delaney's home, is at home with her mom, and she locks her in a room with a very small supply of food and water. And so I'm left to assume that that woman is dead. Because Savannah was gone for a long time. She left a note like, I don't know when I'm going to be back, so you better ration this well. And she does that because that's what her mom used to do. Her mom did not feed her much at all when she was younger and would lock her in her bedroom. And so she was like, I'm getting my payback. And that part was wild. And it just did not feel as intense in the show. The ending of the book is so much more intense than the show. And yeah, I don't think the show was very good. I literally almost stopped watching it, but I wanted to make this video. And so I pushed through. Fortunately for me, it was only 7 episodes. But of course, we have to ask the question, do we even have to ask? I feel like I already answered it. Which is better, the book or the show? And I have to give this one to the book. The book is far more entertaining than the show. It's funnier than the show. There is still suspense because you're like, what happened to the mom? And then the ending gives you that twist that you've been waiting for. So the book was way more satisfying. And I loved it. I look forward to reading more books by Liane Moriarty. And yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Again, if you haven't seen my last videos, the other videos I've uploaded so far this month, please go check them out. I look forward to seeing you in the comments, talking to you in the comments, and seeing you in the next video.